This is Tim Lawless, RP Data's Head of Research. Today I'm providing a snapshot of the 2012 federal budget announcement as it relates to the Australian housing market. In many ways, the Australian budget was quite a non-event for the Australian housing market. There are no new announcements, there's no new concessions announced. The only major change was the fact that overseas residents who own property here in Australia no longer can get a capital gains tax exemption. The reason it comes as no surprise is simply the fact that the government really doesn't want to stimulate the housing market after such impressive gains during 2009 and 2010. Over that period, we did see Australian capital city dwelling values rise by double-digit figures. Perhaps one of the things we should have seen in the federal budget was more stimulus for the new housing sector here in Australia. We have seen dwelling approvals very low in Australia really since the beginning of 2010. So from the federal government's perspective, it would have been quite logical to see some stimulus to attract buyers into that new housing sector, very much more so than the established housing market. In the same sense, we are seeing state government budgets really responding to that lack of demand in the marketplace for new housing stock. We are seeing stamp duty concessions, for example, across many of the states that apply only to new housing as opposed to established housing. Looking at the remainder of 2012 after the budget, there are likely to be several factors that do influence a stabilisation in housing market conditions. Of course, interest rates are one of the primary drivers. We've seen interest rates or mortgage rates fall by about 100 basis points since they peaked back in mid-2009. We've seen affordability improve across Australian housing. The house price to income measure, according to the Reserve Bank, is now back around 2001 to 2002 levels. Rental rates are rising as well, which is affecting yields for landlords. So we have seen yields consistently rising. Overall, I think we are looking at a market that is now starting to stabilise, but I still think capital gains are a long way off for the Australian housing market.